Welcome, and thank you for joining today's webinar, 5 Steps to Dominate Ad Copy in a Smart Bidding World, presented by Athena and Search Engine Land. I'm your host, Cynthia Ramsaran. Before we begin, if you have any audio issues, click the audio icon on your screen to enable your audio. If you're having any viewing issues, you can use the Q&A section at any time to communicate with us. You can send questions directly to the speaker about his presentation at any time. Without further ado, let's get to the presentation. Joining us today is Ashley Fletcher, VP of Marketing at Athena. Welcome back, Ashley. It's good to see you.
Good to see you again. Thank you for having me. Good stuff. Thanks for the kind intro, as always. Thank you for dialing into this webinar. I'm very much looking forward to this. Ad copy is something very close to my heart. I tend to be quite creative and did very well at art studies at school as well back in the day. For those that haven't heard of Athena before, we're search intelligence leaders. I'll go into more about the problems we solve there. A little bit about me. Spent many years now in search across some of the logos there that you can see on screen. Some of the presentation today will go through actually a lot of the Google updates and how they impact ad copy via smart bidding and other feature releases. So we've weaved that into the story today for you to enjoy, but please ask lots of questions. We're lucky here with this format that we've got on this webinar that we can try and be quite interactive. So please ask questions. If things aren't making sense, please say. Another couple of reminders, the visualizations that I'll show today, some of them are from the Athena application as you log in. And then others are from Tableau, so custom dashboards. So if you're looking to replicate some of these using Google Data Studio via API, etc., would be the best way to go about that. So you'll see lots of data visualizations today. Hopefully that'll give you some great insight into what to do with your ad copy. The reason I've got that picture at the bottom there of people smiling, this is actually earlier today. Returned to the lecture room, lecture hall this morning in my local university after 2 years. So really great day, great to see students in person as well, and gives me a lot of enjoyment going out there. I wasn't actually talking about ad copy, it's more around digital. But anyway, that's a little bit about me and what I'm doing as well. So let's move on to the next slide. Athena, if you haven't heard of us before, we're an award-winning search intelligence platform, and essentially we would help you dominate your competitive landscape. We do that via providing strategic insights to your team, and we have a team of experts that help you do that as well. So some of the data that you'll look at today from a whole market view or local view, our data methodologies, is serviced through our team of experts, so customer success and account managers as well, really helping enterprise brands win and dominate in their market. Typically, enterprise brands look at us and say, the problems we're solving is an increase in your costs through search, your ROI is deteriorating, things are happening in your competitive landscape, you just don't know why. And also, things are going wrong where you're under-promising on digital strategies. Essentially, our intelligence is brought in to solve that and help secure budgets moving forward and get better results there and better spending as well. Some of the brands that we work with globally, you'll see these on screen now, across all of the key sectors, as you can imagine. It's interesting in the world that we're living in now that coming out of the pandemic, how some industries are coming back to life again and some are closing down and getting very quiet. So again, there's a whole bunch of change going on there. But one thing is for sure that CMOs, digital agencies and search managers are all after the reason why, what is happening in their market, and that's where we fit basically. The final bit on this slide is our agency partners. So agencies, big, large and small, leveraging our data to get the results for their accounts and brands as well. So again, you'll see some of those well-known household agencies there on the right-hand side. And for those particular users of our product, bespoke products, typically via APIs and custom dashboards, some of which you'll see today on the presentation as well. Because we're talking a lot about smart bidding today and automation in general, I just wanted to throw this one in here just from a personal standpoint. I tend to be late adopter on most things, behind the curve on adopting the technology. I think it's quite dangerous if you're late to market with Google Ads in particular, with what happens and changes in that platform. So fully embrace that to see, drive performance from our campaigns. But stepping back from that, if we were to go all in and everything automated and let the AI learn, I still feel there's a degree of autonomy that we require to make those choices. AI is at its best when it does give you those choices and you select which one. But leveraging AI to choose what coffee I would like in the morning and sensing, what kind of mood I'm in, I'm more of the person that would go to the coffee shop and probably buy a donut or something like that, something less predictable. But I wanted to throw this one in there because it's the world that we live in search marketing. It's all around AI, and just give a sense of perspective there. So as the title suggests on this webinar today, there's 5 tips that we want to cover to help you dominate ad copy in a smart bidding world. The 5 tips are as follows. So we're going to go through the evolution of ad copy options with smart bidding. So I'll use that section as a bit of a recap as to how smart bidding has evolved and where does ad copy sit in that. The next one, I'll talk about benchmarking. So benchmarking your ad copy performance alongside your competitors. I see that as an area that's often forgotten about because you set and forget. Benchmarking is incredibly important, whether that's campaign performance or ad copy or message performance. So we'll go through that. And then we'll look at why message matters by segment and market. So we've got some great examples as to how some advertisers think that state-based national message should be the same as city and DMA. So we'll go through those visualizations there. And then we'll look at assessing local markets ad copy at scale. So again, more tips to really collect as much data as possible and give you the options to make the right decisions. On point 5 here, this is a relatively new concept, and we'll talk about share of search. Now, that's a brand market share metric, but ad copy is relevant to that because that will drive the performance of your brand in market. So I'll give you some examples there. So those are the 5 steps, and let's get started. I've actually got a couple of polls that we'll throw up on the first section, so I'll call those out once we get to them. So let's look at tip 1, the evolution of ad copy options within a smart bidding world. Now, I was lucky enough to catch up with our own Google account rep on this and stole their visualization here. You'll see I've called them out in the footnote. Essentially, I think we have to toe the line with a lot of feature releases and updates within our Google Ads platform. Whether you work in display, social, and obviously search, where we're looking at today, these changes impact all of those channels. So it's very much an ecosystem that's affecting a lot of digital marketers these days. But I think we all have to go on this journey of adoption. And the journey here, I think the click-based bidding, really kind of throwing that out there to really drive in the volumes and the quality from this strategy was the first step in that. And then looking at the volume bidding that came in after that is changing the mind shift to be very target CPA and max conversion bidding as well. So I think the evolution here is taking our focus from very singular targets to actually, right, if I could segment this part of my campaign to this CPA of say $50, this will take care of this proportion of the campaign. It's a really smart move because it's getting everything to be performance driven. But again, it's taking a large chunk of that campaign to get these volumes coming through. The next one is the assigning values. So this is great from a marketing perspective. You want to assign values to your campaigns, whether that's segmenting by new customer, returning customer, newly onboarded customer, any engagement through search or display, you probably want to attribute some sort of revenue action to that. I think this is all fantastic in getting every part of your account to be as accountable as possible for driving some sort of value. Then we come into the value bidding as well, and this is the ROAS and the max conversion value. So again, highly automated. You're putting a signpost on your campaigns to say these are the margins that we cannot overstep or bring in, and actually letting the machine do a lot of the hard work on the smart bidding and all the granular detail that goes on beneath that. Now, smart bidding is obviously part of a huge amount of campaigns across Google Ads portfolio. I think many of us are already on this journey. It's already part of our day-to-day and migrated into that. I would ask the audience, with this in play now, what has it done to you as search marketers as the time back? Are you thinking more strategically? Are you happy now that these campaigns are running and it's a weight off your mind that the machine is doing that? Those are the sorts of questions that I would ask the teams here as to the benefits of these. It brings the question is, if we're all in on these features, what is the trade-off? And I've kind of labeled this as risk and return. So on the left-hand side, the blue column that you can see here is when we go full-on automated management, you want the engine to create more broad keywords for you and find those naturally, which is great. With a growing pool of demand, you want to capture those and get your ads in the right place. You then opt into the smart bidding, the RSAs, the DSAs, I've got an example of later as well, and ad rotation. Again, if you set that properly and let it run, then the machine would do the rest. And then this is built to manage at scale. If you're a retailer or working for a key brand with lots of sister brands, perhaps, this is fantastic for managing everything at scale for you. The question that I would ask the audience here on the right-hand side is, are you an individual persona that actually wants to know what's working? What is the bit in your campaign that's doing really, really well? And perhaps what's the 40% that's really pulling it down, but we're aggregating an okay average in performance? So I would push on understanding, what are the search terms that matter and resonate with the audience now? That the tuning into that empathy is really key, because as we know, through 2 years of the pandemic, the change in behavior, wants, demands is constant. So knowing that wouldn't just benefit the search team, it would benefit the brand and the business as well. I would then look at the options. So, can you change your bid variance by audience and demographic? When you go in with such a broad brush approach on managing your campaigns to a performance metric, are you forgetting about some of these segments that can be driven by search terms and overlay a slightly different targeting there? And then the other piece is, if you roll all of your campaigns up into a national level, are you really segmenting by region? And again, I've got a great visualization later that will talk to spend efficiencies and click share, where you think you are pretty good, but actually much lower in some regions. So the purpose of this slide is really to talk to the risk and return and making sure people are comfortable with that. You don't have to be all in on all of these, but I certainly see both sides of the coin here. From an ad copy perspective, I certainly feel like this, like the Oliver Twist, please sir, can I have some more? Because it feels like ad copy, whether that's the DSA or the automated creation, it feels like it's the last bit on the list. It's the last bit, you check that box, and hopefully all of your conversions will come in. So when you really want more from the system here, I think this is where there's a natural demand to understand what's happening with ad copy. And the example that I've got here on the right-hand side is actually for one of our agency partners. I've got another slide on these later as well, around Uber Eats and the fast food market there, but actually understanding the ad copy in that competitive landscape. When they put in coupons at a particular time of day, how much the engagement spikes on that competitive landscape as well. So at the moment, whilst it is great to automate an awful lot of your DSA and what you do, I think there's far more power in understanding and broadening your lens there. So I think when there is this broad brush that goes over campaigns, is asking if you're comfortable with how long have your top ads been running for, and the way that Athena solution indexes Google search ad copy and bringing back that observed data, we can actually see how long they're running for on particular terms. So you'd be amazed at how long some do run for. Like we've got some that are over 85 days, whereas the market is changing at a rapid click there. Also, then the statewide messaging and how well this ad copy would resonate in New York versus Austin, Texas, or if you're a retailer, what does curbside pickup look like versus in-store collection? All of those nuances are really, really key in ad copy, and it all has to come through because, as I said earlier, the customer sentiment changes continually. I really struggle as well when we've been guilty of this ourselves with our own search team, is when you set a template with dynamic features or RSAs, you still get wonky looking ads come through. And our headline there, an example that you can see on the screen, isn't really up to scratch, but again, it's the machine determining that for us. So again, we could highlight instances where this did appear and we're able to iron that out. So that concludes tip 1 of this presentation. So I'd ask yourselves, what is your trade-off? Is your ad copy kind of broad brush? And I don't think, no one should really be lazy with their messaging. I think if you have compelling brand and offer, that always needs to be reviewed and looked at. So moving into the next part of the talk. So this is tip 2. So benchmarking your ad copy performance alongside your competitors. Often we overlook and we stay within our focus of our own brand all of the time. What we're trying to encourage here, and there are tools that can do this partially with auction insights and keyword tools as well, to give you a slightly broader view of what is happening in your market. And before we go there, I think with the new release of Performance Max here coming in from Google Ads, I think it's another area that's encouraging advertisers to really opt in on the smart bidding automation across that tool of features there. And again, this is going to be impactful for your smart shopping and local campaigns as well. So whilst it's best practice to benchmark, just be wary of when you do go to market and embrace this change in Performance Max, how that diminishes any kind of CTR benchmark that you had by region or whatever your nearest competitor is doing as well. So the goal of this here is if you're opted into the suite of Google Ads options available, and you can see the tiles on the left-hand side, you have one campaign that spans all of these channels. And I think from a speed perspective, if you are the hare in this instance, then you're going to be out of the gate pretty quick. You'll be opted in, you'll be checking all of those boxes and performing well. But if you approach it from the tortoise and actually ask yourself, how is this going to help your strategy, then again, you'll probably want to segment and look for clearer data on this as well. I strongly suggest looking at the recent blog that we've put on our website as well to give you more details about this release on Performance Max. And we've had one client already today call it PMax, so it's growing in popularity. So that is embracing that change in Google, that opting in to automate an awful lot of your bidding. Now, if you are heads down and you are the hare in this instance, you'll likely miss nuances in your landscape like this. So this is a visualization that we took on a key market in retail to understand the messaging in ad copy that's actually working. So our models would look at CTR and click share and share of spend as well off the back of that. But you'll notice the key shift here in movement towards free shipping, free returns by this segment. If you were just opted into your campaigns earlier, you'll likely miss this if the market is moving and you are not. The bit that I want to kind of pull in as well is that if you're so focused on setting and kind of forgetting, you will probably miss elements like curbside pickup, which was obviously a key change through the pandemic, but something that all of the competition would have in your auction segment, ad group, whatever it might do, that you may not be aware of. So there's it's fraught with danger if you're set in your ways of your ad copy and really not scanning what's happening in the market. The next one is a great piece of insight ran by our customer success team for a leading US retailer, and they have the home improvements category here. Now, just to dive in on the key trends first, so we're segmenting the trend here. So this is the share of clicks by trend for mobile paid text ads in both of the instances. Now, the yellow competitor here, they spotted increased their performance and took market share very quickly in the space of 4 or 5 days. Now, the response time here was setting up daily alerts on the market share shift. Okay, so where it's important to understand is actually how they did that. So the 19% increase that they had, where they were able to segment and look into the homeware, home improvements, and actually segment by price and offer as well. So whilst it's very, very important to benchmark your performance on a weekly, daily, monthly cadence, whatever it might be, understanding the why is actually the more impactful and powerful element here. So with this data, within a week's turnaround, they were able to make up that percentage and spin that back around. So the bottom chart that you see, they were able to regain that market share by being responsive and understanding the ad copy changes. When you dig into these trends by segment, you really understand price point analysis, missing search terms, product title analysis on Google Shopping as well. So it's really the how. No one wants to be on the hook to say, why have we lost 9% market share to our closest competitor and not have the answer? And this is why ad copy is so critical in answering that. So the main takeaways here is performance max, e.g. PMax, as I heard earlier today, is to get your heads around that and how that can benefit you as an advertiser and what benefits it will give you from a day-to-day perspective as well. Don't forget that the ad copy clearly impacts or influences click share, the amount of clicks available in one market that you can get. If you're running an offer, a coupon, a discount, or your competitor is running a sale, they will be capturing clicks with that. And I think, as we said with Performance Max, are you happy to make these decisions based on less search term data? So I still feel like it has a place on the table to understand what's driving volume and what is not. And with that, I think I'm going to activate our first poll. So bear with me as I just navigate to this. And I'm going to start polling on this one. Okay, so everyone, fingers at the ready. This should appear on your screens very shortly. So this will be around Performance Max. So relatively new launch from Google Ads. You may not have heard of this yet, which is great, and we can follow up with more details. But what is your view on Performance Max? And you've got 4 options there as well. We'll give that a couple more seconds, a few more seconds. Okay, good stuff. I think there's a few more coming in, but we have a clear winner, and obviously we're a bit ahead of the curve here with the news, and it's obviously relatively new news for a lot of the audience and haven't implemented it yet. I think there's always a learning curve on these things, and probably going back to your Google rep and understanding how it impacts me, um, or you as a business. So I think that isn't too surprising there. What is surprising is obviously the great adoption of these features as long as you hit CPA and ROI targets. So that is a great way to be. I think if this works well and you have small teams and you're short on time, then this is really great. Loving the fact that 20% there, 30 of you coming in saying you're unsure if you get the granularity you need. You should be striving for those answers as well. So that's great. Thank you for completing that. I'm going to now close that poll. Okay, so back to the presentation. So section 3, why messaging matters. Just to pause here on the visualizations that you see on screen right now. Top right hand side, that is ad copy from Google search. So again, we index that from the Google results page. Everything that comes back from Google, Athena indexes and analyzes with our AI models and whole market view. Now, the beauty of this is that it's observed data. It's the ad that's triggered on specific search terms, and it's what your audience, your target customers see when they search. If you're firing DSAs, RSAs, whatever it might be, and unsure what format it is actually converting with the ad extensions, then this is the holy grail of that. It's giving you full clarity on it as well. Messaging matters from another perspective as well, because if your competition comes in and steals market share, click share with a particular message, you want to know about it, right? So the bottom visualization is Smart Monitor and daily alerts that go into the user base that tell you how your competition are doing it and where as well. So again, it's all highly segmented, but this is making you react fast as to what's going on in your competition. I'll start with a classic on black box. So if you're a brand manager now or managing a brand within an agency, just to understand the threats and opportunities out there. It's absolutely fine to be running towards a target CPA, but do you let it run? And within Google Ads now, are you happy with the best, good, low, small, medium, large performance of your ad copy? That's as deep and as granular as you would go. Then questioning yourselves, if I had a key season coming up, wherever it is, the summer, travel, flights, do you have adequate reporting in place to demonstrate what messaging is actually resonating in the whole of your market, not just in the terms that you're appearing on and not? And also, what are you missing out on? If your relevant competition has just launched a new running shoe or opened a new hotel in New York, what is the message that they're going to search with to acquire that? And again, how do you want to segment your market? How do you want to segment this data to really maximize the impact here? So again, opting into a lot of automated features is great, letting the engine work. But I think as advertisers, we should all be asking ourselves this question to really figure out the why. Apologies, this is quite a busy slide here, but again, we're looking at thousands and thousands of ad copy that sit in here in this particular segment. So we actually ran this on for a retailing brand, and they wanted to understand the nuances on calls to action. So in our AI, we can segment calls to action, sentiment, offers, anything like that can be automatically bucketed into what is working out in market now. So you'll see where the number of impressions naturally gravitate towards language like shop and now. And then there was key advertisers that were actually making considerable ground, clicks, impressions, when they started to use the phrase discover and now and find. So whilst these are fairly simple words, understanding or getting the AI to spot these patterns and seeing where they're doing this is incredibly powerful. Some of these advertisers in retail as well introduce new features like new, new offers, new outlets, new discount codes, those sorts of things. So the segmentation here is incredibly powerful. The other variable that comes to play here is the unique ads that come in. So as I mentioned earlier, having an ad that's sat on the SERP for 85 days is quite frightening when you look at your whole relevant market as to how many new ad copy come in on a regular cadence. So again, it really does bring you up to speed with that as well. So again, this set of call to actions learned by the AI model and presented back in this custom dashboard. I'm pretty sure a few of you on the call are familiar with auction insights and where your overlay will impact with other competitors. So it can tell you who's in your space now. Now, our agency partners at Media Hub and with the brand Chipotle here were leveraging auction insights to try and guide what to do with their brand. What they missed out on is actually the market share by each of their partners in a market. So partners such as Uber Eats, Just Eat, other advertisers like that, who are part of their partner network trying to acquire customers, were actually eating into their market share. And the daily alerts that were set up here actually policed these partners incredibly well. But it said the ad copy that they were using at any one time. And if you remember my earlier visual saying that at around about dinner time or tea time at 6 o'clock in the evening, where it spiked, you would see a whole influx of new ad copy coming in. So it really does pay to be as targeted as that with your messaging and offer as well. So whilst auction insights is great for a bit of insight here on your direct competitor on what you're appearing on, it will not tell you what you're not appearing on that's relevant. Okay, that's the key difference there. So the summary of this one is to make an effort with ad copy. You have to be responsive. You have to change and adapt a message. Observe data is key. Again, with the auction insights example there, it's not in Google's interest to tell you what the direct competitor is running in their ad copy, not at a great scale anyway. So using third-party independent data that actually indexes the SERP result is really key. And that's publicly available. It doesn't run into any issues on signed-in users or anything like that. These are the ads that are running out in the wild now. The next really clever part with this, if you could pair the frequency of an ad copy and share of clicks, you can understand which of your competitors are winning and how. And that is the really, really powerful piece to this. And then again, adjusting to customer sentiment and seasons. For example, there'll be a lot of focus at the moment on charities and donations. Anything like that, again, is critical for your brand and your message that flows in. You should be observing that and understanding what's happening in your market. And with that, I'm going to go to a second poll. So thanks for your engagement so far. Let's see how we can improve the responses on the next one. So I'm going to send this around the frequency of updating your ad copy. So this may not be just you, your search teams. It might be you and your brand teams as well, you and your PR teams. Let's have a look at some of the frequency in which you're changing ad copy here. Okay, good stuff. Just a couple more seconds, a few more coming in. Cool. Okay, I probably should have asked this poll right at the beginning of the section, but it's not that surprising that the volume isn't changed that much. And when we see the insights or the custom dashboards that are built around ad copy, we see a steady increase in the refresh that goes through. I think it's encouraging to see that there is a healthy balance of weekly updates. I think, again, if you want to stay relevant to what is converting at the lowest part of your funnel with search, then I think you must take a lot of care in your ad copy and how that performs as well. The once a month, depending on the vertical, the space, the area of competition there, I don't think that's in the unhealthy range. But I think, again, knowing what's working on the other side of the fence for competition, I think might make that change perhaps every 2 weeks. So thank you very much for partaking in that poll. That's really interesting. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to tip 4. So here we're going to talk about local markets. We've got some great visualizations here. I think, again, with user behavior dispersing from regional cities to be far more localized, I think it's just a natural change in habits. Google have focused far more efforts in SMBs and better maps and Google My Business listings as well. So it's naturally fitting because there's auctions happening away from city hubs now and happening far locally. So that's what we're going to talk about here. The first one is a bit of an aha moment for some brands. So if you're rolling a national brand message, and here we've got the furniture market, it can be quite dismissive to say, right, this is my closest competition, this is my market share at a national level. And you'll see here that on the right-hand side with paid mobile, again segmented by mobile on text ads, that the auction is completely different. Okay, so here the competition were focusing on 1 or 2 key players, but then they had to open up a store in Atlanta and understand that market in far more granularity. All of a sudden, there's 2 new players that have come in that own around about 30% market share that just were not on the radar at a state-based view or a national-based view as well. So coming into this, it's really kind of opened the team's eyes up as to, okay, so how are they doing it? How are they winning? And what is our direct local competition? Opening up the kind of the chest on this one, if you like, to get teams to lean in. Reports like this are often consumed at the exec level or budget planning level to understand what states are going to get more funding and digital budgets as well. So again, this really poses the question as to who and how. And in this instance, you've got 2 players here that are taking considerable market share in Atlanta, and now we can show them how to do that. So really great visualization, and again, it's creating different competitive tactics to combat these 2 in Atlanta as well. The next one, and this is a personal favorite kind of visualization of mine, again, we do this through Tableau, fed by our API. So if this is something that you want to try and replicate with your own data, whether that's from Google Trends, your own dashboards, this should give you good food for thought. But the green areas are really, you're doing well from a healthy share of clicks competitive standpoint. Where we see this overlaid is when ad copy is responsible for higher conversions, when radio, TV, outdoor elements like that are running. And what it's done is really ranked all of these by their click efficiency in their relative market. So you'll see actually in Tampa, Florida, the share of clicks here is an alarming rate, and they've actually deteriorated on this time range. So whilst this is a total view of market clicks, we can segment this by search terms as well. So we'll stick with the furniture example. If it is garden furniture, then we could segment that and understand at that level that there's other players coming in, perhaps running offers on garden furniture, discounts, free delivery, those sorts of things. So again, dashboards like this consumed on a bi-weekly basis, I would say, to really guide whole teams on the local market strategy, not just the search teams, branding teams, TV, SEO as well, just to see where the rankings can be improved here on click share on their terms. So again, those 2 visualizations should help broaden the view as far as a performance measure and how ad copy can influence that. Both of them observe data from the SERP and put into this aggregated segmented view. You can then segment that by your particular audience, returning customers, new customers, a device, or ad group as well. But again, this will help you get on the path as to understanding how you can then win in the market with your compelling ad copy offer. Just wary of time here, so I'm going to close out with our fifth tip today. So this is a relatively new subject in share of search, and ad copy is important to this one because, again, using the TV example, the radio example, search is seen as the holy grail as far as the conversion. It's going to drive through clicks on your brand. How people interpret your brand on the SERP is really, really key. So again, ad copy plays a real part in share of search. Before I go into the visualizations there, huge shout out to the pioneer of this metric, because we've been on the quest to find a brand market share metric for many years and leverage things like share of voice. But Les Binet has done a lot of research on this, but essentially share of search can predict brand outcomes far faster than any other brand market share metric. And it's using search data as the barometer to do that. So again, there's some fantastic content out there. Have a read of that to understand the data that went into this to, table this as a really market-leading, pioneering brand metric for brands to use. But again, the essence really is predicting better outcomes, faster outcomes using search as the key data point. The journey we've been on brand market share kind of goes like this. You can do market share, where you can look at your total market sales and addressable market in there. You can look at your relative market share. So if you're one furniture provider against another, you can do a head-to-head. You could then use share of voice, but that leverages social data, and how accurate that is that in actual conversion metrics. Search is lucky that it sits right at the bottom, particularly on brand, and has the best lead indicators of any digital metric that we have there. So that is the essence of why we use this. And it's really kind of used to now guide the brand. So we have a lot of FMCGs that use this, large enterprise organizations. And on the left-hand side here, the orange arrows, when you're leveraging this data, and I'll show the dashboard in a second, your reaction time becomes quicker. The channel confidence in search grows as well, because everyone's using that channel to improve. The stakeholder alignment improves. So that's exec, PR, heads of brand, heads of search, heads of SEO. All of those are on the same page with these metrics. But essentially, the cusp of this is, if you could predict an increase in media spend and then therefore a better brand market share from it, could you predict that faster? And if your share of search has increased, can you forecast an uplift in your ad copy performance from brand in search as well? And in both of those instances, if you can say yes to both of them, then again, this is a real kind of killer metric to guide the business. To bring this to life for you a little bit, I've got a couple of charts here and visualizations around this. The one centered here with the trend charts beneath the donut chart essentially looks at all of your relevant competition. And we've got a whiskey brand here that's using this. And you can see there's two clear market leaders. The brand owner at the top with the pink line is the one that's leading the charge, okay? Why it's important for ad copy is, if you take a look at the last couple of weeks, you see the volumes have tailed off here. And also at the column chart at the bottom right hand of your screen there, you can see that this has tailed off considerably after a very, very high peak. Now, this is quite natural for a heavy investment in brand. You may have ran sponsorships, etc., but there is the active threat of competition, and understanding what they've done with their ad copy could be a plausible or a real kind of reason as this market share has dropped back. So again, whilst we're looking at actually your market share, beneath this will really highlight the focus and importance of ad copy as well. And again, it will set you on a journey to understand, okay, so segment by region, segment by brand, and it will really uncover that your share of search may not be as good as you think in particular states, cities, DMAs. But beneath that, there will be ad copy that's really driving that change. So to recap here, this will really drive synergies across your entire digital business, not just with search and ad copy. It will force you to understand how and why. If the brand copy, ad copy is performing well, then this will be reflected in your brand market share, which is an awesome exec metric. And again, this sits outside of the search team. It's very collaborative and inclusive of other digital teams and executive teams there. So again, that's good for personnel's development, career development, bringing search to the exec table as well, and ad copy actually for that matter. And that concludes my 5 steps. So I think we're going to now go to Q&A, I believe, Cynthia.
All right, Ashley, thank you so much. We've got a couple of questions that have come in. Let's start with David, and he asks, Ashley, how did you parse out the different strategy from competitor yellow to then pivot for your client to make the necessary adjustments when the share dropped?
Yeah, good question. So that was segmented by search terms. So it was a home improvements category. It was non-brand, so it was generic terms. And I think we had home improvements and then the region, so perhaps Atlanta, and specific search terms there. So I think from memory in that group, there may have been around about 50 search terms that were relevant to that particular exercise. But it was one of their key areas that was driving, vast amounts of their revenue.
Okay, great. Shanu asks, what about landing page score?
Good question. So leveraging Google Ads for that will still be the best lead indicator for how that works. And I think all of the best practice there is still encouraged. So load times, copy relevancy, external links from there. Do not be dismissive of that as well. I think where it matters for us is understanding kind of brand trademark infringements, bringing back those URLs, is where landing pages really impact Athena. But for that, I'd still definitely use the Google Ads interface and adhere to score as best as humanly possible with their methodology there.
Thanks, Ashley. Our next question is from Sharon. Is there a specific report or view in Google Ads that you recommend to review ClickShare?
There is. I think there's a filter there, and perhaps we can follow up with the screenshot as well. I think the one piece that's tricky here is if you're leveraging something like market share, if you're only on 5 terms now, let's say, and in one state, there could be this whole relevant landscape for you that you're just not aware of. So again, I think knowing the art of the possible is really the key here. But I think, we can follow up and give you a screenshot as to how to utilize that best within Google Ads now. And again, using the auction insights example, it will show you, where your competition is, but only on the overlap, the terms that you're both appearing on. So it's an indicator, but not the whole picture.
Okay, great. That sounds great. You'll follow up with
Sharon.
All right. So Lenny asks, does changing ad copy reset the algorithm, requiring it to relearn all over again? If so, wouldn't regular copy changes make your campaigns relearn regularly?
Yeah, I think this is, talking about feeding the machine and knowing what works is really key. You wouldn't want to make huge changes if there's a top performer in there. Obviously, the standard A/B split testing practices are still a thing. The bit that we often see is just the general care and attention. If there is a DSA that's running, a bit like the Athena example that you saw with the title replicated, that can run for months and months, and people will not spot that and wonder why CTR is not improving, wonder why or how often that triggers. I think once you shine a light on it, then you'll probably take that much more care. And when it comes to ad copy and CTR, that's the marginal gains that make the difference. So yeah, so I think you would probably go from a bi-weekly cadence. But yeah, offers, incentives, the variants that you can add now for ad extensions as well is really dynamic. So you've got to find a way to continually refresh and drive up the CTR.
Okay, great. And we have another question about ad copy change frequency, and you may have touched upon this a little bit, but David asks, when thinking about ad copy change frequency, how does that shift in relation to the amount of data you have coming in on a monthly basis?
Good question. So our view um, with this basically impacts kind of click share. So I'm trying to think of the most relevant change. So if you think about airlines at the moment, and if there is a route that's coming back to the United States, and I don't know, flights to Florida have gone up 20%, um, is understanding what is the message that's resonating there, and whereabouts the location. I think yeah, I think it's a mix of understanding the message and utilizing, the brand exposure, where that fits in the headline, and really maximizing the returns there. Sorry, that's a bit of a long-winded answer there, but perhaps I'll give that some more thought. Perhaps come back with a better answer.
Sure. Um, we have an Outlook question for you from Jessica. What are your predictions for paid search in 2022 and 2023?
Um, Okay, so in 2022, I think if you remember the slide with the Google roadmap and the bidding algorithms, that's going to be a constant adoption of that in our day to day. That's not going away anywhere. So everyone should brace themselves for that change in bidding strategy. Um, I think one of my main predictions, perhaps for the latter part of the year, is it'll get less. It won't be as transparent to find out why. And I think that Google's building a system that's less reliant on understanding exact search terms and message in market, just in order to hit ROI and ROAS targets, I think. So I think for those on the call that are craving that ability to understand and actually dial up and do a bit more with your strategy, I think will prove to become harder in the Google Ads interface, because more of it will be black box and automated there, I believe. So yeah, I think search term reports will go, for example, perhaps next year. That's my bet.
All right. Cindy asks, what's the best way of refreshing RSAs when there's limited performance data of ad elements?
Very good. So that, in a nutshell, is why it's so hard to make these bets based on the data that you've got now. I would first and foremost kind of using the indicators like best, okay, and low ranking there. Try and trim out the low just to try and optimize that group. Optimizing on a smaller set will be a better best bet rather than looking at a batch of 50 or 60 lines that you've got running. I think get your control group to be as small first as possible, and then you'll really understand what's working there. But that is the problem, right? It's trying to make those educated bets based on no data, no reporting data. And unfortunately, unless leveraging a third-party tool like Adthena, you won't really get to that, because you won't see the observed data that's happening in the SERP now. But I'm sorry, I can't be more a better answer than that. But that's as honest as I'm being, really.
Fair enough. Our question from Shanu, when we're competing with a brand, what will be the best option?
Competing with a brand, as long as it's friendly and there's no brand infringement and they're not stealing your brand name, using your brand name, because that can be challenging as well. Then I think you've got to focus on your message. We've been caught in this a couple of times at Athena, where you can just continually throw money at the problem. If you go back to the earlier point on optimizing the journey and the landing page, whilst it seems like a bit of a slog and a bit of a long haul to try and get that achieved, it will pay off. You'll get higher performance. You'll be rewarded with lower CPCs. The other red flag here is that something like that in a brand battle is incredibly time consuming for the teams, and it will take you away from your day job. So again, leveraging the observed data like we have with trademark infringements does help, because then you can instruct legal teams and those sorts of things as well.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. I think we have time for one more question from Jessica. How many headlines do you recommend pinning when using RSAs? And does pinning too many restrict the performance?
Good question. I would certainly look at, depending on your segment, if you're in shopping, retail, you've got multiple categories, then yeah, 6 to 7 per group would be fine. But for someone like Athena in the SaaS space, then I think at the moment we're probably running around about 11 or 12. It really depends on your industry. So as long as you are split testing and regularly changing or testing, sorry, different approaches, then yeah, they're trying to drive performance there. But I think from memory, I think we may be about 7 or 8 from memory. Sorry for Athena.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Ashley. And just a kind reminder to our attendees to take a look at the handouts in the handout section. There are more resources there for you. And I just want to thank Ashley again for this engaging presentation. If we didn't get to your question or your comment, we will be sure to pass it along to Athena. On behalf of Search Engine Land, I want to thank everyone in our audience for attending this webinar. We hope you join us again soon.